Hi, everyone, and welcome to Jehovah Boy. I'm your host, Doug Smith, and this is the podcast where I talk to friends, comedians, artists of all ilks about struggle, hardship, trauma, bad shit, overcoming it, channeling it into your creativity without letting it define you. My guest today is my friend, comedian Casey Balsham. She has a fantastic new one-woman show, solo show, called Inconceivable. It's all about her struggles with IVF treatments and the path to pregnancy. And it's a fantastic show. It's hilarious. It's heartbreaking. It runs the full gamut of emotions. Inconceivable. I love the title, too. I love hearing that word outside the context of The Princess Bride. I used to see Wallace Shawn all the time in the West Village. I think he teaches at NYU. And I left him alone for years and years. I didn't want to bother him. And then one day we were standing at the same, we're about to cross the street. We're standing at the crosswalk, and he's standing right next to me. And I was like, dude, I'm sorry to bother you. I got to tell you, Princess Bride is an essential part of my childhood. It's the first movie I ever saw in the theater. Would you do me a favor? Would you say the line? And he just got a big smile on his face or went, inconceivable. Made my day. What a guy. Anyway, Inconceivable is the title of Casey's show. And it's great. It's really great. And it's all about her path to pregnancy, and she prevailed. She did it. She is with child. She's due to give birth in April to this $90,000 baby. $90,000. I kid you not. And I don't think I've spent $90,000 on my son over the course of his 7 years on this planet. No way. Maybe my mother-in-law has. I don't know. I always tell people that are like, oh, babies are too expensive. It's a fortune. And I say, well, hey, not if you have in-laws that are worth a shit. My mother-in-law is tripping over herself to buy shit for this kid. It's fantastic. Anytime we need anything, we just send out an SOS. We need pajamas. We need socks. We need school supplies. You going to Marshall's? Great. Fill up a cart, and she's on it. The woman is single-handedly keeping Marshall's afloat. I think Marshall's is a struggling business, but I think she's responsible for at least 50% of their income. And I love Marshall's too. The only place I draw the line is groceries. I don't want groceries from a discount department store, but they try to hawk them to you. You know, the checkout line at Marshall's is like overstocked from a 99-cent store. You can get anything there. Anything. They have foot massagers and lip balms and action figures and greeting cards, sex toys. I don't know. There's probably something that resembles a dildo in a checkout line at Marshall's. Why not? And of course, groceries. And it's not my favorite. I'm drinking tea with expired honey in it as we speak. This honey is expired in 2012. Drinking 11-year-old honey as we speak. But they're like, hey, $2.99, you want to take a gamble? Sure, why not? I live to tell about it. Anyway, enough about Marshall's. Casey and I had a great conversation about pregnancy and the whole process of giving birth, which she hasn't done yet. And I didn't want to tell her this. I didn't want to discourage her because every pregnant mom has a birth plan in place, which is kind of a preposterous concept to have a birth plan. Because giving birth is kind of like robbing a bank. You can have a plan in place, but there are all sorts of variables that can blow up in your face real quick. Shit can go south and turn on a dime. And I didn't know what her plan was. I didn't want to discourage her. In retrospect, maybe I should have told her. Maybe this could have been a cautionary tale, but my wife and I attempted to have a home birth. Attempted being the operative word because it did not go well. It was a complete disaster. Everything that could go wrong went wrong, short of my wife and son dying. Everything, they survived. Everything leading up to that point, man, what a disaster. It was terrifying. And we went to check out a birthing center at the hospital 10 blocks away from us at Methodist Hospital. My wife didn't like the vibe, and she thought, I've always been curious about home birth. I think it could be a really beautiful experience. I had my skepticism from the start, but I thought, hey, she's the one doing the heavy lifting, and this is ultimately her journey. I want her to feel safe and comfortable. I support you. Let's do a home birth. So she hired a midwife and a doula. And doula, by the way, what a bullshit profession that is. Basically just a hippie con woman with a bunch of catchphrases. You got this. Go, girl. Keep pushing. You want this baby. You can have it. Just keep going. And they have no medical experience. It's all just about positivity, which fuck that. And I'm sure I'm going to get a whole bunch of angry messages from doulas, but bring it on. Get a real job while you're at it. Anyway, we call the midwife and the doula. They show up. She starts going into labor. I basically serve no purpose. I'm basically told to just stay out of the way, get some sleep while I can. Basically, they're like, this is your last chance. You're never going to sleep well after this moment. Once the baby is in front of you, you are a changed man. Sleep is a thing of the past. So I go into the nursery. I'm trying to sleep on the floor next to my son's crib, which took me 4 attempts to assemble this crib, by the way. It was donated to us by a family friend. They gave it to us unassembled. It was my responsibility to reassemble it, and I am not a handy person at all. So they gave us the parts. They gave us an instruction manual. The instructions that were in English were mysteriously missing. So I'm trying to navigate this process with an Allen wrench and some pictures and some Chinese characters. And it took me 4 attempts to get this thing assembled properly. I assembled it in the living room and then tried to transport it into the nursery, only to find out that it was too wide to fit through the door. An eighth of an inch too wide. And I was like, fuck this. I'm not going through this process again. I will find a way to get it through this doorway, come hell or high water. So I aligned it as well as I could. And I thought, I'm just going to slam it through this door jamb. I don't give a fuck. I'll rip the whole door frame out of the wall. Fuck the security deposit. Here we go. And I took a running start, and my left hip is still paying the price. I did not prevail. So I had to take it apart and reassemble it a 5th time. Anyway, I'm lying on the floor of the nursery, trying to get some sleep. Trying again, the operative word. If you can sleep in a room while your wife is in the next room, sounding like a wolf being torn apart by wolves, then you are... Congratulations on being able to sleep through that, but you're a monster. So no, of course I couldn't sleep through that. So I'm basically just trying to make people tea and get people water and clean up the various bodily fluids that are being strewn about. And 20 hours later, she's still laboring, no real progress. She's 10 centimeters dilated. The midwife goes, you know what? We got to break her water. Breaks her water. It's brown. The water is not supposed to be brown. That means there's doo-doo in the mix. It's doo-doo water. Meconium is the actual scientific term. That's when a baby has a bowel movement in utero, and it's very dangerous because they can aspirate it. They can breathe it in. They can suffocate. It can be deadly. If you're in a hospital, it's still dangerous, but they can deal with it right away with, modern medical technology. We then had to go into emergency mode and escort my wife down 4 flights of stairs while 10 centimeters dilated. Get her into the car. I still serve no purpose. I'm not even driving the car. The midwife is driving. I take back everything I said about a doula, because I actually served even less of a purpose during this process than the doula. I didn't even have any words of positivity. I was just a shell-shocked husk of a human, just sitting there with a 1,000-yard stare as the midwife was hurtling through traffic, still trying to be as safe as possible, because, you want to get there quickly but safely. We also don't have the same liberties as an ambulance. We don't have a whoop whoop or a siren. So, at one point we're stopped at a light along the FDR, and I look out my window and I see a father and son enjoying an ice cream cone. They're sitting on a park bench sharing an ice cream cone. I think, man, what a beautiful moment. They have no idea of the carnage happening inside of this Subaru Outback right now. They have no idea that my wife and child are struggling to stay alive. I would love to share an ice cream with my child one day. I don't know if that's going to happen. So we get her to the hospital. Turns out my son is his head is cockeyed as he's descending through the birth canal. That's why he's not crowning. There's really no progress. He can't pass through the birth canal with his head cockeyed like that. He's not streamlined. He's not aerodynamic enough. His heart rate is skyrocketing. So they're like, all right, emergency plan in place, emergency C-section. They whisk her into the OR. They're like, where do you want to be? Do you want to be down here while we take the baby out, or do you want to be up by your wife's head? Do you want to be holding her hand and offering her moral support? I was like, I want to be at whatever end is not going to look like a scene from an alien movie. So they're like, okay, you should be up here. So I'm holding her hand and stroking her forehead, trying to offer her words of encouragement. She's got an epidural. She's doped up on, I don't know how many different drugs, but she's barely coherent. And I'm holding her hand. I feel her body being rocked back and forth as they're sawing her open. At one point, they have a partition separating her upper half from her lower half. At one point, I make the mistake of glancing upward. I catch a reflection in the lighting rig as they remove her guts and put them in a bowl to be able to extract the baby. It's horrifying. Anyway, they pull the baby out. There's no crying, which is a bad sign. You want to hear crying. That means they're alive. They whisk him over to us real quick. I'm able to make eye contact with him for a split second, and then they pop him in an incubator. They wheel him off to the NICU. That's the neonatal intensive care unit. That's not where you want your baby to be. Turns out he did aspirate meconium. They don't know if he's going to survive the night. And if he does survive, they don't know if he's going to be a vegetable because they don't know how long his brain has been starved of oxygen. So it's looking real cut and dry for the next 12 hours. And he survived. I mean, he was in the NICU for 10 days with all sorts of tubes and breathing apparatuses hooked up to him. We could go in there intermittently and hold him. But it was scary. We were not out of the woods necessarily for quite a while. Even after my wife was discharged from the hospital, we were driving back and forth to the Bellevue Hospital every day. And hats off to the Filipino nurses in the NICU, kept him alive. I have a special place in my heart for them for the rest of my days. Hilarious. They were hilarious, by the way, too. Every time we would show up, but hey, we're here to see Mason. They'd be like, Mason. Oh, Mason, he the baby make a poo-poo while he eating. I was like, oh my God, my son is shitting himself in utero. He's shitting while he eats. This kid cannot stop shitting at inopportune times. Anyway, they kept him afloat for 10 days, and then it was our turn to take him home, which felt like abduction, honestly. It was like, we have no idea what we're doing. Are you sure we get to keep this guy? You want us to bring him home? I don't think that's a good idea. But here we are, 7 years later, healthy as a horse, robust boy. But man, what a terrifying experience. So Casey, if you are listening to this, and you are planning on having a home birth, good luck, sister. If you're not having a home birth, thank God. But anyway, we have a great conversation about her IVF treatments and the path to pregnancy. So without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Casey Balsham. Here's the deal. First of all, thank you for coming on to talk about this, because I'm sure it's a little odd to talk to a man about IVF treatments and pregnancy woes, but I have been a part of such before. I have impregnated a person and been privy to the process and yes. The highs and lows and ups and downs. It's a process. I really do not know anything about the IVF process, and it's one of these things that I think, like many people, I kind of anytime it comes up in conversation, I kind of feign my way through it, just being like, oh, I know it's a long, arduous process. It's very expensive. Yeah. But I really don't know the ins and outs of it at all. So,
but it's also not your fault. Nobody that actually has ever had to go through this. I think even if you ask Robbie, that is my husband, people listening, if you ask Robbie, even though we've been going through this process for 3 years, any part of it, he'd be like, I came in a cup. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, there's not like he would have no fucking idea what exactly this process is. Because first off, they don't really teach you, even though I feel like because of just life in general, people are having kids later, which kind of puts people more in this bracket of having to use science and doctors to have babies. And also just like so much that we eat and ingest in our daily life affects our fertility that we're not told about. So it is kind of something that like you don't know about it until you're going through it. And even me having gone through it, there's still parts where somebody was like, what was your transfer protocol? And I'm like, and it was, it was in July, and I'm like, fuck, what medications did I take? Like it kind of all blurs because it's so much that I think it's hard to remember things, and it's hard to have for anybody that's not going through it to know about it, because even sometimes people ask me questions. I'm like, I don't remember. There's something like that. It's intense. So it's not your fault that you have no idea at all.
Yeah, you really do have to.
People do.
You really do have to compartmentalize that information, and when it's not valid anymore, get rid of it. Right?
It's gone.
You only have so much space in the hard drive.
Well, it's also like that thing they say, as I talk a lot about how now that I am pregnant, I feel it's been pretty, like my body is really like, this is why we were trying to protect you from this. My body was like,
you
we
thought
didn't
you
want
wanted
this,
huh?
You forced this on us. We did not consent to getting pregnant. But like, yeah, it is crazy now being pregnant with how crazy awful that feels. But they say that's where I was going with this, that they say that once the baby comes out, like we're conditioned to not remember anything that we went through so that we will keep procreating. So I'm just wondering if it's the same kind of mental thing for IVF, that it's like we're just programmed to not remember 5 years of fucking shots and procedures, because then you get pregnant and you're like, okay, I don't remember, So it could be something like that. But it is
it's like the little red light thing in Men in Black, just erase your memory.
You're done.
So you can power
like once
through.
The hormones, except for it's just hormones, and it's just the tears that you cry while you watch Great British Bake Off. It just wipes your memories clean. But it's like science is wild. First off, it's like crazy that literally a man named Peter Klatsky made me a baby somewhere in Manhattan, and then put it into me, and now it's my baby. Do you know?
Peter Klatsky is your doctor?
I have sent half of New York's female comedians to this man. If you are in New York and you need a baby, go see Klatsky. He's the best. He was really cool.
Wow. All right, so hold on. Let's backtrack for 1 second here. So when did you know that you wanted to have a baby, and when did it really kick into high gear where you're like, because you're a working comedian, you're a hilarious, very active comedian, so this is something that I'm sure you really had to kind of grapple with in terms of, can I sustain a career while doing this? I mean, we all do, we all have needs and desires outside of, well, I shouldn't say we all do. A lot of us have needs and desires outside of comedy, hopefully.
Many of us have dreams and hobbies and goals in life, yes.
But it's a difficult thing to juggle. So I'm sure that you probably may have wanted this for a while, but how did you kind of grapple with the whole process of, I want this, how's this going to interfere with my comedy career? Can I juggle this? And when did it really kick into high gear where it was something that was undeniable that you couldn't put off any longer?
Well, I mean, I've wanted kids since I was like 10. So like my whole life has been like, I never, even when I got into comedy, even in my life, I mean, there's definitely times where like, I think like I couldn't have been a mother in my 20s. Even in my early 30s, even when we started this process, I was still like going to patties and blacking out, being like, I just want to be a mom. And people were like, maybe put down the fireball, but I had always, it was never a question for me of if I was or wasn't going to do it. I had always wanted to be a mom, but once I hit, and me and Robbie didn't start dating. I mean, we were in our 30s, I'm 40 now. And let me see, we were together 8 years. So yeah, we started dating at like 32, 33. And then we started trying when I was 35, because it was kind of like I was, even though we weren't even like engaged or anything like that, because this was always it was always something I wanted. It's funny, I never really even took into consideration like my quote unquote career when I was doing this. And then it actually, through going through all this, I wrote an hour on infertility, which then now that kind of feels like it almost like helped play a part of this. And then it's also, I think sometimes when you have something that big going on, comedy doesn't feel as life or death. So it actually, I feel like, made my comedy, I got a lot more loose because I was focusing so much on this other thing that I really started to feel better about my stand-up. So it all kind of held hands with each other in a weird way. But I will say the first couple months when I was sick, like, comedy was like the last thing I wanted to do. And I found out I was pregnant while I was in Scotland doing the Fringe Festival, where you do an hour for a month straight. And I was doing my hour on trying to get pregnant while I found out I was pregnant and feeling so sick. So it's all been this weird thing that has been so connected that it never felt like it was never going to be part of each other, And it's like, But I will say, when I was really sick, I was like, and I'd have spots, I didn't want to do them. And you really kind of go, oh, comedy, it all kind of doesn't feel as important.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like, I have no idea how I'm going to feel when the baby's here. Like, I don't know. I still like doing comedy. I'm still very excited about being a mom, and I have no idea what's going to happen after that. I mean, maybe I become a mom, like one of those like mom comics is like, you ever have a baby that's like, wah, wah, like, I don't know. I might become that person, and that will just be an evolution. That'll just be what happens.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's very clear that you're not somebody who hides behind a certain persona on stage. You are very much yourself. You talk about whatever you're thinking about or dealing with in that moment. I mean, I think you're very true to yourself and honest on stage more than a lot of comics, I would say. And I think what's really cool is the fact that, myself included, I'm working on this show now about my Jehovah's Witness upbringing, and I have not been a part of Jehovah's Witnesses for 20 years, but it has taken me 20 years to be able to kind of look at things objectively and find the funny in something that was really kind of a traumatic experience that I was really kind of in
100%.
denial of and wanted to just move on from and just forget about and just live a normal life. But you are talking about this and doing a show about this in real time. So the whole idea of tragedy plus time equals comedy, you're like, no, tragedy equals comedy.
Tragedy now. But I mean, when I think about it, though, it actually did take a couple years of me being through this to kind of, like, we were going through it for like 5 years, and the show kind of just came together in the last like 2 years. But also like I don't know if you'll find this to be true, but first off, it's kind of easier to write about one thing. Like I found that, like, just actually thinking about all the experiences was like, and then just essentially writing a script and punching it up was like a very different process, which I really enjoyed. Also, I think adding comedy to something that to trauma or whatever, that people generally don't associate as funny, like, feeling like you were in a religious cult, feeling like all this stuff, like, you're going to find so many people that are going to appreciate you throwing humor to this. It's going to be really cool when you start putting this up on its feet. It's going to feel really good, and that's going to fuel you to go deeper and be like, what else if they liked this part of it, where else how much deeper can I go with this that people that have experienced this will relate to, but also obviously making it funny so that people who have no idea what it is, that it will ultimately still be a joke, which is what we're trained to write. What we're kind of like, it's going to be really cool writing it.
Yeah. No, I do agree that once you start out, focused on one topic, it makes it, whereas just doing regular stand-up, you're like, oh, is this funny? Is this funny? I should write a joke about this. It streamlines things. It makes things kind of easier in a way.
It does.
If it doesn't have to do with that topic, like, no, save it for something else.
Yeah, or you can tangent to jokes you have that bring
That's
it back.
true,
Like, you can pepper in everything you have, but it is kind of cool starting with one thing instead of for me, I always found it hard to do an hour cobbling together my like 30-second, 1-minute jokes. But then when I kind of like made it, when it was a story and it was like, and I was talking about the process of it, I was like, shit, I was like, this is, now it's like, it's almost too long, you know, like I just redid the show and I told the guy running out, I was like, oh, it's like 48 minutes. No, it's 58 minutes. It is 1 hour long. It's interesting to talk about once you kind of get going on the truth of it.
Yeah. I bet. So what you found, so you go to Edinburgh to do this show that you've been working on for how long?
I had been working on it since last October.
And the show is called Inconceivable, right?
It's called Inconceivable, yeah. And I'd been kind of done, like you say, I'd been kind of doing IVF jokes for the past, like, since I've been going through it. So I'd kind of like, I had dabbled in doing some IVF jokes and some trying to get pregnant jokes, but I'd never put them all together in a lineup to make a full show. And so that all came together, like last October. So, but I'd been probably doing jokes, for another year before that. So it's probably about like a 2-year thing.
Right.
And I just redid it for the comedy festival. It was very ironic to do it in Scotland, where I found out I was pregnant on the 5th day that I was there. Like I had done one show.
Wow.
I had done one show and then I was like, okay, now I'm pregnant for the rest of them.
So kind of the point of the festival, correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't done it before, but like you have this show.
Don't ever do it.
That's what I keep hearing, and I'm so glad because I've been beating myself up for the fact that, because I keep thinking I have a fucking kid throwing a monkey wrench at things. I can't abandon my family for a month, but I feel like I should. To get a leg up in my career, I need to abandon my family for a month to live in Scotland. But it sounds like that's great. I'm so glad. Like I said to Anthony, I'm very glad that you guys could be the guinea pigs so that I can save myself a fortune and my sanity.
Anthony, if you want to go, talk to anybody else. If you don't want to go, talk to me and DeVito. We will fucking be like, turn around, don't do it. And we lived together. We were like, it was like we had to keep each other sane. And that part was really fun. If you could find a buddy to go live in Scotland with, just go do that. Don't perform at all. Just go live in Scotland with buddies.
Just have a brocation under the guise of
just do that.
Doing comedy. So you find out your 5th day in. So the whole point of the festival is you have this show, you have this thematic show, solo show, one-person show, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. And the goal is to, I guess, kind of fine-tune this over the course of 30 days and really make it something that's really kind of solid. Which I'm sure over the course of 30 days, you're going to make some tweaks here and there. But I highly doubt... Right. But I highly doubt that you anticipated getting that news. And then how did that inform how you did the show the rest of the month?
So it was, and because I remember, and I was telling, DeVito and Gabe, who we were all living together, I kept being like, all right, on Monday we find out either we're going to be having a lot of beers or we're going to be eating a lot of food or something. Like we're celebrating, we're going to do, something's going to happen either way. And I remember just feeling like so nothing that I took a test early because it was like Scotland had 2 beautiful days and I was like, I just want to drink a beer outside, and it was positive. And so I just remember, I think I did the show, but it was so surreal because it had been so long that like I literally saw, I think I like looked at the test because I had no symptoms. I had to carry these fucking flyers that you have to order. And the boxes were like 15 pounds. I wasn't supposed to be lifting anything. And we were staying in like a 4th floor walk up. And I remember like, I was like lifting these boxes being like, even if I am pregnant, I am ruining it right now. Like I was like, I traveled to a different country. Like, what do I do? Like the whole time I was like, I'm so not pregnant. So it took me a couple days to digest it. And then I had to take blood tests while I was there to kind of confirm it. So like I took 2 pee tests and they were both positive, but I still was kind of like, I don't know. And I still felt nothing. Like my tits couldn't have been less sore. I felt nothing. Like my body felt like I was like nothing was happening. And then so once I got blood tests and I sent it to my doctor and he's like, this is good. And then I had to take another blood test so it took me a while to digest it and to actually come to terms with it. And then I think probably like the second week of shows, I might have said something at the end. If I liked the crowd, I would kind of say at the end, like, okay, this is what's happening now. Because I was also doing a pay what you want show. So a lot of times people were coming in free and you have a tip bucket. And when I started saying I was pregnant, they would just give me so much more money. So I just kind of like,
oh, wow.
I kind of had to, but I had a couple crowds that I didn't like where I just was like, and I have some embryos back home, bye, but
Yeah.
I noticed that when I had that, when I gave the reveal at the end, it was just like people's reactions and the feeling of the show changed drastically.
Yeah.
And so that was actually kind of fun. Like, it was so funny because the guys that came after me, they're like, why is everybody crying leaving your show? I was like, listen, I'm just that good, baby.
Because they threw all their money in the tip jar.
Yeah, because they threw all their blue money, the blue and purple fake fucking gross UK money at me. But no, so it took a minute, and then I started to say it. And I think I just needed to also say it so that I could start believing it, because it was so, because you try for so long and then you pee on one stick and it's like, okay. And you're kind of like, so that's it. Like, it's been my identity. I was literally doing a show about this. Like, it's who I've been the last couple years. I've been trying to get pregnant and talking about nothing but, and now that I was kind of like, what the fuck what do I do now?
Right.
It was very weird. It still feels kind of weird.
You got to lose the in, just change the title to conceivable.
I know. I've got to change this. That's also, I have to change my whole fucking act. I have to put everything in present tense. People, and I notice sometimes halfway through a set, if I tell people I'm pregnant, they like almost laugh less at the jokes afterwards, because they start to be like, oh, she's going to be a mom. We can't laugh at these dick and cocaine jokes now. It just becomes kind of like people, it's been interesting playing with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know about you. I don't know if it was intentional at all, but inconceivable, I have such an association with The Princess Bride whenever I hear that word.
Yeah.
You do?
No, but I posted the poster and somebody wrote like, well, because what is the sentence he says? Like, I don't think you're using that word correctly. And I thought somebody was just criticizing my title. And I was like, no, dude, I can't get pregnant. And then somebody was like, it's from The Princess Bride. I was like, oh, dude, you're cool. Like, it was just like, I didn't know at first. I kind of like forgot.
I used to see him because I had a dog walking service in the West Village for years.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that. And I used to see him. He used to live in the West Village and teach acting class. So I used to see him all the time. And the first time I saw him, before I realized, when I first moved to New York, I was not privy to the fact that, don't make a big deal over celebrities. You're going to see them, just leave them alone. So I put my foot in my mouth time and time again, made an ass of myself with a lot of people. But Wallace Shawn, I remember the first time I saw him, I was like, hey, and I didn't even know his name. I was like, you're the guy. And he was like, I'm sure he heard it all the time. And I was like, can you say it? Can you say the line? And he didn't even ask me. He just went, inconceivable. And I was like, yes, you fucking made my year. So you find out about this 5 days into the show, and you tell...
Yeah, I can't have a beer.
So oh yeah, which I'm sure is exactly what you needed to get you through that 30 days.
I mean, it was all around. Like, it's such a big like outdoor party that Anthony DeVito would make fun of me because we'd be like walking and I'd be like, you should probably get like a walking home beer. And he's like, I know what you're doing. He's like, you're doing what you would have done. You're trying to get me drunk because you would have been drunk right now. I'm like, absolutely. I'm going to be like, I think, don't you need a cider for the walk back to the apartment or something? I was like, just trying to making him party through, like, I was partying through him because I was like, this is what I would do right now. I would probably just be buying beers to go home.
Yeah, for sure. That's got to be really tough too, because I remember when my wife got pregnant, which, by the way, she got pregnant at 40, gave birth at 41.
Yeah.
I remember when she got pregnant, I felt like I had a ticking time bomb. And it was like, all right, I got 9 months of freedom left before my life is flipped on its head. So I went off the fucking rails, just like...
Oh, I bet.
Drinking, drugs, like staying out late, just like really going fucking nuts. And I was able to do that. I mean, I don't think she was... I kind of kept it close to the vest. I don't think she was that aware that I was going berserker, but like I was able to do that. Whereas you
Oh yeah.
It's not like, all right, I found out about this, let me get a week of partying in and then I'll fly on the straight and narrow. Your life turns on a dime in a split second.
I did it a month before though. I had like a goodbye. I had like a farewell party because I had been trying. I go through these phases where I like didn't drink because you're not really like, it's like one of those things you're not supposed to, but it's also hard because you're just like, all I want to have is a glass of, like, all I want is just a little something that's for me because I've been doing these shots and doing all this shit for so long. But I did have, I had a hurrah. At the end of June, I went to Fire Island, got blackout drunk. I'm pretty sure I did Molly and like, it was one of those you wake up at the beach and you drink. I had like my big hurrah. I was hungover for like a week and I was like, okay, and here we go. And then I didn't drink for a month and then we did the transfer at the end of July. So it was like I got one thing out of my system. I was like, give me some gays, give me some sun, and let me just do this thing before I become a mommy. And maybe that's what I needed, you know? I don't know. Maybe my baby was like, are you good?
Yeah.
Are you good?
Can we do this now?
Here I come.
Let's proceed.
Can we do this? But it also took that to be like, oh, fuck me. I can't actually drink like this anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, a week-long hangover is not fun.
Yes. And as you'll see, a hangover when you have a small child is even less fun because they have no mercy. They don't care that loud noises bother you. It's almost like they know. It's almost like they bust out their loudest Fisher Price instruments when your head is throbbing and try to put on a full orchestra for you. So
can't wait.
So you guys had been trying naturally. I feel so awkward talking about trying naturally.
Fucking, woo. I literally had on our wall at our old apartment, there was literally like nail polish, like marks from my toes because every time I'd be like, lift my legs, because I thought you read these things and you don't know. And so you just follow whatever people on blogs are saying and they're saying whatever you want to hear. You know, like, And so I just remember like I'd throw my legs up and literally my nail polish had like marked up the walls. So we had tried for, about, I think maybe a year and a half or 2 years with like, and like, it's so funny. It's like science, like common sense goes there. Like I remember the first time we tried, I went to bed being like, oh my God, like I'm a mom and like wanted to take a pregnancy test the next day. Like that's not how it works. I know that's not how it works, but I really like the first time we tried, I really was like,
yeah.
I like went to bed being like everything's changing. And it was just, it's so bizarre to think back. Like I vividly remember that moment. Well, it was also Halloween and I was dressed like Cruella de Vil. So it was just like, there was a lot of things happening that night, but I just remember being like, okay, we're really doing it. And just thinking that like 3 months from now, like that everything was going to change. And like, little did I know that it was not going to be till like 5 years later. You know? Wow. It's such a bizarre thing. So yeah, we tried for we tried just like without any kind of like calculating for a bit. And then I started kind of peeing on ovulation sticks. And then right before, and then I had to get like, there was always things like I had like a big lump in my neck. I had to get removed. I had to get like a surgery. There was like always like other things happening. And then like right before the pandemic, we went to like an IUI doctor, which is intrauterine insemination, which is where they basically like take sperm and put it they basically just hand sperm to the egg. They were like, just here. Like they make it so that the sperm doesn't have to do anything. They just are like, here it is. They put it past your cervix. They throw a bunch of sperm at your egg and you're taking like some medication to make your eggs like to get them kind of juicy and like really like ready to receive it. And we did those like literally March, April, May, June of 2020, like heart of the pandemic, nobody in the streets. My doctor was just this old Jewish girl that was like, I don't believe in this whole COVID thing. So we're like, all right, fuck it. Like, let's keep doing treatments. And so, but it was like weird because we were the only people in the streets, like going to these doctor's appointments, trying to make more people. And I was like, we didn't know what was happening in the world. And it was just like, it was so weird. But it just, it's like what people also don't understand, I think about fertility too, is that, you know, you only really have a few days a month. So it's like, if it doesn't work this time, you have to wait. So it's like, you're constantly just waiting on your body to like get your period, ovulate, do all this stuff. So it's like it's so much waiting, because it's like you have to wait to do this thing, and then you take the medicine, and then after that they put the sperm in you, and then you wait 2 weeks after that, and it's just all like you're just like tick 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 tick. It's such a waiting game. So we did those for 4 months, and those weren't working. So then we moved on to going to the big guys, going to IVF doctors. Still in the pandemic.
Damn.
Which is crazy. You remember when like you didn't know if outside clothes could be inside clothes? Like if you went outside, you'd be like, oh, I can't touch the couch. I was at the grocery store. It was like during that time, and we were like, more life. We should bring some other people should experience this.
Right.
You know, it was weird. Yeah, but those weren't working, and my doctor was kind of like, I don't think that this is combination. I think my age. So when you're a woman, like after 35, your quality of eggs they're rapidly declining. Like you have like 15% of your eggs are good at between like 35 and 40.
They really put the fear of God in you about that, right? I mean,
but they don't do it until you're like 36, and you're like, fuck, I missed all my good shit. And then also Robbie didn't have a lot of motility, so he basically had swimmers that were like, we're not interested.
Yeah, they want to stay in the shallow end.
They were like, we're lazy river people. They didn't want to swim. Oh, they're just like, whatever. So it was like a combination of a few different things. So my doctor was like, you need to go to IVF. And so we were like, great. We brought all our change to Coinstar. We're like, let's count up the money that we have. We have to give it all to a man. And then, yeah, that's when we started that. So still kind of like mid-pandemic.
Wow. So this was a long process. And what were the levels of discouragement? Were you guys both pretty positive the whole time? Were there times where one of you was like, fuck this isn't worth it, and one of you had to be like, come on, we can do this?
Not like that, but there was definitely times when like the drugs made me crazy. Like there were a couple times with like the drugs, but also we both kind of had a moment of defeat when we did our, like, because the thing is also like, you know, when you do an egg retrieval, you're naive. You're like, we'll do one egg retrieval, we'll do one you think everything is going to work, you know? And so when we did our first egg retrieval and we only got 11 eggs, we were like, okay, 11 eggs. This is 11 eggs. But that only yielded because the eggs essentially have to go through like a fucking CrossFit circuit. Because like once you get the eggs out, they have to be mature, then they have to fertilize, and they have to make it to day 3, doubling in like their cells, and they have to make it to day 5 or 6, having like the right formation. I forget what the word is, but they have to basically be the right thing. And then after that, if they make it to day 6, you have to go get them tested to make sure that there's no genetic abnormalities. Yeah. And that's where where you lose like 50%. So that we only got one good embryo. So after like spending, I think our first round, because he had me on so many drugs, was like $30,000 to $40,000, and we were like, so we can't afford to do this again.
Wow.
Maybe it was 30. I think it was about 30.
I knew it was a lot, but I did not know a number. That's nuts.
That number now seems like a baby number to me. We're way past that now. You know, like we've done 4 egg retrieval, like everything's
just when you pay off your student loans. That's what's next in the life of an adult.
I know. I need an egg freezing forgiveness program. Or embryo freezing. So we only got one embryo out of that. So it was it was kind of like, well, fuck, now we've just gone through this intense thing. We've spent so much money, and we have one shot.
Yeah.
We have one shot at this. And so we were like, that it kind of like, because you go and you're like, I'm going to get so many embryos. Like you just think things are going to be different. And then when you have one chance, because you're like, I don't know if I can afford this again. I don't know if all this stuff, because insurance doesn't cover it. We finally, our last round, Robbie's insurance covered it, which was nice. But we did 3 rounds out of pocket, 3 egg retrievals out of pocket. I had to get a septum surgery, like my uterus was split at the top. I had a fibroid they had to remove. Like you just don't, until a doctor's like looking, you have no idea what the fuck is going on inside of you, or what problems are gonna like come up, you know? I had some kind of weird something that would attack embryos. So I had to go on like rounds of antibiotics of that. And like, it's just everything. You know, you're just like you don't have a life. Your whole schedule is like doing the drugs that you have to do for it, injecting. Like I was in comedy club bathrooms because you have to do it at certain times, just like shooting up. Like it was weird. And it was like, it was so bizarre. But so we did have one good embryo who came back genetically normal. Because a lot of the other ones had like more chromosomes or less chromosomes, which basically, and the only reason why they do this is so that you don't you don't put an embryo in you that could attach and then will just miscarry. Because that's what a miscarriage is. It's just a bad embryo, an embryo that was never going to survive outside of your body.
Yeah.
So, so we had one, and then we implanted. It was a boy. We implanted him last summer, and he didn't stick. So we were like, so that was like a big. It was definitely like, okay, well, what do we do? Because then we did another egg retrieval, and we didn't get any embryos from it. So we were both kind of like, fuck. Like it was a lot of just like disappointment, like, because your expectations are high, and then you go through this process, and you're hopped up on drugs, and you're like, everything's like crazy, and you're on this crazy schedule, and you're going to the doctors. My old doctor, I went in every morning. So it's like, how do you live when you're like every morning at 8 a.m. you're in there, you're getting blood, you're doing all this stuff, you're injecting everything every night, and then nothing comes of it. You just kind of feel like, what the fuck did I just do? You know? So it was crazy. But then we ended up switching clinics, which was hard to do because I liked my doctor, but whatever he was doing wasn't working for my body. And we had some better results with Mr. Klatsky. So I think our hopes were high, because then he got like 30 eggs out of me the first time we did an egg retrieval, as opposed to the 11 and the 7 that I got before. So we were like, wow, that's more chances, more eggs to make it to day 6, which means more will go to genetic testing, which means more possibly embryos, more chances of a baby. So, and within that first batch, we got 5 embryos from him out of 2 egg retrievals. And our first one, our best quality, is the one that stuck in me now. So she was like, it's a girl. So she was like the best quality embryo. And yeah, and she decided that it was time. She was like, Fire Island's out of your system. You have the show. The show is already written. I feel like it's time for me to make my appearance. But yeah, the process is just with the drugs and the timing and how much of your life it takes up is just kind of nuts.
Yeah, and it sounds like between all the information that you have to wrap your head around that you've never been exposed to before, you're getting, it's like you might as well have a master's in biology by the end of this.
It's like essentially, too, doctors, I think, forget that we're regular people. And so they'll say things to you, and you're like, I don't know what that is. I didn't go to school for this. Like, you know, like my doctor, like, oh, well, there was a positive NCF or blah, blah. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, what is that? And like, they have to like explain it in layman's terms. But it is kind of crazy how they, you know, it is crazy that you can take eggs out of somebody and then Robbie jacks off in a bathroom, and then they put that take one sperm, and put it into the egg, and then just watch them and see how they grow. And it's like, and it is wild. And then the good ones, then they freeze, and then they have to dethaw them when they put them in. It's like, it's just a wild process, like crazy. But like, obviously, I'm very thankful some freak figured out how to do this.
Some freak.
Some freak was like, just let me see what I can come up with if I suck the eggs out of the guts of this woman. But yeah, man, it's a crazy process, and I feel like I've been on hormones for the greater part of like 3 years, and then you get pregnant, and the hormones are still kind of wild, and yeah, but I mean, ultimately, this was the goal. So now I just keep being like, okay, 4 more months, and then it's just never just us again. And Robbie's like, great, keep saying it.
How's he doing right now? Is he like stable and sane throughout this process, or is he didn't go my route, going off the rails, or maybe you don't know about it?
He has been drinking a lot of Malbec at night when we watch The White Lotus, which used to be my move. No, Robbie's pretty even keel. You know, like, he's a pretty mild-mannered man. So it was crazy because I when I found out, it was the middle of the night here. So the first person to find out that I was pregnant was Anthony DeVito, which is crazy. I mean, but also kind of, how I intended it. I was like, listen, before anybody else, I got to tell DeVito. He's another comic. But it was just kind of like we both were a little skeptical. And I think Robbie more so was worried because, there's this whole like waiting period where if it's safe and you're not supposed to tell people before 3 months. But that is one thing with the tested embryo, you have way less chance of miscarrying. So I was like, that's why I also was kind of saying it out loud in Scotland, like in the show, because even though I wasn't in the safe zone, I was like, I have never been this pregnant, and this embryo has been like through so much that like I'm going to just celebrate every moment of this and not trying to think about anything bad that could happen. But I think he was a little more skeptical. Like, I don't think we told his parents for like a few weeks before, like just because he was like, I just want to wait. And I was like, I think listen, we've never gotten this far, so like let's just celebrate everything, because that's one thing that really bothers me about these rules of like don't tell anyone until it's safe, and it's like it just all makes the woman feel alone. It's like, who is this safe for? Like, safe so that I can just suffer if this miscarries. I'm just like by myself and I don't have this support system because they didn't know, just so I'm like fucking the minute I got pregnant I was like, it's happening. I just told everybody because I was like, if something does go down, like I'm gonna need hugs. I need support.
No, it's hard to sit on that news for sure, because you have so many feelings about it, and it's just kind of this universal socially accepted thing that you just don't tell people until a certain amount of time passes, which is, so it makes sense, but it's so morbid at the same time,
It's like you're waiting for something bad to happen before you, and like I understand, like there are people that have gone through so much loss that it becomes like a thing. I get that. I luckily have never gone through a miscarriage. I never got pregnant before. So I was like, I was on the other spectrum. So I don't know how I would react if I'd had loss before. Maybe I wouldn't be, but after the testing and me knowing what I know about the fact that like this, I know this is a tested good embryo. So the chances of something bad happening are way less than if it was just a normal natural pregnancy that I felt comfortable saying it out loud, but it was just, but I get that was my comfort level, but I'd never gotten a positive test. So it was like, this was extremely exciting, and all of Scotland had to know. I told them. I told the whole UK.
That's great.
There were people, it was very funny. There were people in Scotland that I had never met before that knew before, like all of our friends in New York.
Wow.
Like, so many comics that I just met in Scotland, I was like knew, were like, how you doing? And all that stuff. And nobody here knew. It was kind of a bizarre situation.
And did you feel like being able to, because again, the fact that you were talking about this in real time as it's happening is really amazing. And did you feel like that being able to do jokes about it and talk about it on stage helped you kind of process all of what was happening?
100%. It wasn't until I started writing about it because when you're going through it, you feel like it's above you. You feel like it's not you. Like I was physically giving myself shots, physically feeling everything. And I still was like, this is not, it still felt like not me. So it wasn't until I was like writing about it and talking about it that I was able to kind of go like, fuck man, this has been a crazy process. Like this has been kind of gnarly. So writing about it for sure helps me process it. Like I think even more than Barbie. And I think I told her, I was like, I think I needed to write about this. She's like, well, that's great.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so having gone through this now, would you do it again? Are you planning on, were you wanting to have multiple kids? Were you planning on one and done? How has this informed your decision making for the future?
So that's the thing is, and I know you guys have one, but and Robbie's like, we don't know if we have 4 more embryos.
Right.
So we have 2 boys and 2 girls chilling somewhere in Manhattan. My doctor was like, I give you a year and then I'll have to put another one in you if you want to. He's like, I have to put it in you right away if you want another one. But I also think you need 2 because I think they need someone to talk to about us about, Like I'm like, if I didn't have my sister to talk shit about my parents with, I would just feel like a crazy person trying to explain to Robbie about how crazy my mom was. You know what I mean? Like, I think ultimately we just fuck up. Like by the time our kids are grown-ups, there will be different rules and different things, and they're going to be like, why did you do that? And you're like, that's what the book said at the time. At the time we weren't rewarding. Okay. At the time we weren't doing this. At the time we were praising and doing, and then they're going to be like, I needed tough love. And it's like, well, maybe that's what happens now. But I feel like they're going to need somebody to talk shit with about me, because I know I'm not going to do it perfectly.
Yeah, you're right.
So I'd like to, but I ultimately will see how we fare with
Right.
Because I've heard it's not a picnic, but I'm very excited.
But that's so true that parenting books and whatever, the leading professionals say now, it's going to become obsolete. 20 years from now, they're going to be like snake oil salesmen. It's like, why the fuck would you listen to what that guy said? Big mistake.
I know. It's like, because we see it. My sister has 2 kids. We see it with my grandpa who does these things like, okay, if you don't clean it up, that means grandpa's going to clean it up. And then that means it's going home with grandpa. And it's like, hey man, we're not like doing threats anymore. You know what I mean? Like we're kind of like just being like, and I get that that's what worked at a certain point. It was just like, okay, you reward for good behavior or you take away for bad behavior, and that's how kids learn. And now it's like, I think we're also prepping kids for a completely different world that they know. Like we're prepping kids to deal with the fucking internet, man, and constantly feeling bad and less than because of what they see on the fucking internet. And it's like, so like we're, I think, supposed to be focusing more on like just making them feel loved and safe, so that they don't look on Instagram when they're 10 and be like, why does that guy have a pony? And it's like, man, because we live in Brooklyn. There's no ponies here, And so we're prepping kids for like a whole different world. Like, so that,
Yes.
So it is funny to see the different generations. But by the time our kids are grown up, they're going to be like, what the fuck were you guys talking about? We're like, we don't know.
Yeah, I know. And hopefully, who knows, social media might be obsolete. There might be a major revolution. Because it's not just kids. I had like a nervous breakdown a couple months ago where I was so frustrated with the whole process now in terms of the comedy climate changing, in terms of posting reels and shitting out content. And
I know
I was so distracted and irritable for a couple months. And my wife was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine." Another week went by. She was like, "What's going on with you?" And I was like, I had like put my head down. I was like, "I'm addicted to Instagram and it's ruining my life." And she was like, "Oh my God, I thought you were going to say you were cheating on me." And I was like, "I basically am with my phone. I just hole up in my room like a teenage girl and wonder why nobody likes me." And it was like fucking embarrassing. I felt like I was like admitting to like a sex addiction. I was like humiliating that this is I'm going to be 40 in January and I'm a fucking, ready to hang myself over my Instagram account.
That's what I'm saying, bud. So this is like, nobody could have prepped us for these feelings. Nobody could have prepped us. Nobody could have loved us hard enough to make us feel better about ourselves with when, you know what I mean? Like nobody knew that was going to be what we would be dealing with now.
Yes. Yeah.
Or like that the number one thing that kids want to be is like
influencer.
A YouTuber or an influencer now. That's what they're like. Nobody's like, I want to be an astronaut. Nobody cares about fucking space. They don't even know what it is. You know what I mean?
You want to hear something really heartbreaking?
All they want to do is hawk face cream.
Yeah. What?
That's it. Yeah. What's heartbreaking?
Face cream. My son he's in 2nd grade now, and so like he's at the age where
that's a person.
I know. Yeah, it's nuts. He's really into video games, which is, it's okay. Yep. It's of the age. Yep. And, it's not the most horrible thing ever. He has a kid in his class, though, who's not into video games.
Oh, boy.
And his mom told me that she will hear him. He will go home after school, close his door, and she will hear him through his door, not even filming himself, just sitting in front of the mirror being like, "What's up, fans? Thanks for following. Make sure to hit that subscribe button." And he's just like rehearsing this monologue as if he was a YouTuber or an influencer, and he's not recording himself. Doesn't have his own channel. He's just sitting in front of the mirror regurgitating this shit that he's heard. And she's like, "Oh, I wish he was in the fucking video games. Are you kidding me? This is really alarming what he's doing." Well,
I wish he was just shooting other people in Grand Theft Auto. I wish.
Drag someone out of their car and beat them to death in Grand Theft Auto, for the love of God.
And also, like, there's weird shit on YouTube for kids. My nephew's 2.5 and knows his way around YouTube. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, but it's almost like, this is also the argument. It's almost like kids need to know computers because that's what everything's going to be. So it's like, if they don't know how to fucking do shit now when they're 15 and they're like, oh, we don't take notes, we're all on iPad, and you've never let them use an iPad, they're going to be like, Rah! You know, like, it's so, there's so much, I can't wait to make decisions for my child's life. It's going to be insane. But yeah, like, it's crazy, the world that's happening right now. So yeah, for the generation before us, like, they have no idea what our kids are going to have to do. Like, we have no idea what it's going to look like. It's insane.
Yeah, and you're right.
They might all be YouTubers. That might be the only job left.
Yeah,
It might just all be YouTube.
I know, we really shouldn't discourage it too much.
It might be it.
And that's what I'm going through now, because like
maybe he needs to be practicing.
Part of being a Jehovah's Witness is like being completely isolated from the outside world. So like secular entertainment was very much, like frowned upon.
You can't even feel inside your own body. They're like, not only do you not get outside entertainment, but don't even feel awake. No caffeine for you.
Caffeine, believe it or not, is allowed, but that's one of my favorite things is hearing misconceptions about Jehovah's Witnesses. And all the other things.
Mormons. I'm thinking about Mormons.
Yeah,
I'm
but
thinking about Mormons.
I love hearing people are like, you're the ones that can only have sex with live chickens. It's like, no.
Religion is that? I'll join.
You're the ones who can't cut your hair. I hear the weirdest shit. But like, I was not, I came up in like late 90s. I graduated in 2001, and my parents only let me have a desktop computer, to have access to Microsoft Word to be able to like write English essays for school, But I have a phobia still of anything tech, because it was so foreign to me growing up that I never learned it. I was never caught up the way I needed to be. Yeah. And so now I'm still struggling. I just got a new phone the other day, and I had all this anxiety about getting a new phone and transferring shit. So I honestly can't wait until my son is a teenager and he's able to be my fucking social media manager,
Yeah, man.
Like, lean into that shit.
That's free labor.
Exactly.
Free labor. You got to teach him how to edit videos.
Yeah. Throw up those captions.
By 6th grade, he knows how to zoom in. It's so, yeah. No, but it is true. Like, their life will be so techy, and it's like, okay, cool. The world is moving forward, but also like, my God, we're losing so much because of technology, and we're just watching it happen. Like, me and Robbie were watching like a 90s movie, and it was like, old New York, and all these people were like on their cell phones. Like, when they show the shots of everybody, but like the big cell phones, I was like, man, that's not even, it's just everybody looking down on, like, nobody talks on them anymore. It's
right.
Like, a shot of New York now would just be people with their heads down looking at their phones. And it's like, I mean, like, and I drive around the city now. I mean, I can't tell you how many times people have almost gotten hit by me because they just cross into a street.
Yeah.
Looking at their phone.
Yeah. And you're on yours too. You're like, can't you see I'm texting and driving?
I'm like, I am trying to say I'm late for the spot. I'm looking for parking.
Yeah.
But yeah, the world is wild right now, and our kids are, who knows what they're going to be dealing with. And we're like in between though. That's what's so weird, because we had pre and now we have post.
Yes.
Like, we had, it's so, I
we know
feel like
both
we're
ends of
in
it.
the
Yeah.
weirdest, the weirder spot. Yeah. Because it's like, because we're not old enough to not have to adapt.
Right.
Like, my dad never has to get on social media if he doesn't want to, but like, we have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, we're at the age where it's like, we had to kind of adapt to what was happening, or we would be behind, especially for comedy. It's like fucking crazy.
Yeah. And what you said about,
again, jump off a bridge. Let's all do it. Let's just all fold hands.
But yeah, what you said about having a sibling, trust me, even though we decided to only have one, that is something that I think about. And part of that too is like, I have 3 siblings, but they're all much older than me. They were 14, 16, and 18 when I was born. So I, for the most part, grew up kind of like an only child. They were all kind of out of the house. And I remember when my parents were acting particularly nuts or fighting, I really wished I had a sibling my age to commiserate with. My son, from the moment he could speak, was adamant that he be an only child.
Really?
Crazy. Like do not have another baby. I'm the only baby.
Only love
and
me.
he has stuck to his gun. Thank God he has stuck to his guns about that.
That's really funny.
He has not changed his mind at all. But by the same token, like he's at an age now where he's more observant of everything around him. And like something that he has to contend with that we didn't have to contend with is parents being glued to their phones all the time.
I know.
And he's now starting to call us out about our phone use. And I imagine that he probably does wish, even if he wouldn't admit it, he probably does wish he had a sibling to be like, Jesus Christ, these fucking guys are on their phones all the time.
Can they watch me? I'm doing my dances.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think about that a lot. I think about, because we want to capture every moment of them. And it's like, it's just how photos and videos work. But also that at the same time, it's like they learn very early, like this thing is important to everyone.
Yeah.
And then they want it. And then they want to see, and then also, then they know like, oh, they're not paying attention to me. There's something more important than me. It scares the shit out of me about making sure that I can put it down.
Oh, yeah. It's a serious gut punch when it happens too. Like he asked me to draw with him the other day. And I was like, okay, let's draw. Get out his supplies. We start drawing. 5 minutes into it, I'm starting to get into it. I went to art school. I dropped out to pursue comedy, and now it's coming full circle because my son is an amazing artist, like unreal.
Great.
And he draws every day. It's like eating, sleeping, breathing to him. And I'm now kind of getting back into it through doing it with him. So we're drawing for like 5 minutes. I'm starting to get really immersed into what I'm working on. He's like, I think I'm done. And he walks away, and I'm like, I thought you wanted to draw. He's like, I was just trying to get you off your phone. And I was like, oh, fuck. It was like a dagger through the heart,
Yeah.
And then he said to my wife a day later, they were sitting on the couch. He was watching something. She was on her phone. And, you'd think, all right, he's immersed in one screen. She's immersed in another one. And then the next day, unprovoked, he's like, Mom, I need to talk to you about something. Remember the other day I was watching a movie and you were on your phone? I felt like you were there, but you weren't really there. Like he's able to articulate that now. And it's like, we're getting called on it, whereas when he was little.
This is what they're going to be in therapy for.
Yes. Yeah. When he was little, I was able to like put my phone like behind my knee, so he couldn't see it. And like, I was like all this doom scrolling on the sly that he was oblivious to. And I can't do that anymore. And so, yes, it really is like.
Man.
That is, this generation is going to be like, really fucked up over our phone use.
Over our phone use.
Yeah.
That is so true. It's like, instead of like having like my dad was a little distant, he didn't like play catch the man. So I'd be like, oh, my dad never looked at me. My dad loved Instagram. So like, because especially with what it is that we are looking at, like Instagram or Twitter, like what losers we are. I will say I have muted a lot of people on there. So it really is just like my friends, cooking, apartment stuff, like stuff that is just actually things that don't make me want to die, like don't make me upset. Like I've muted a lot of comics. There's too many of us. We're doing the same thing. There's too many of us. But I also was trying to do it to make myself on there less. But now that it's all things I like, I'm like,
right,
here goes 2 hours. I could do 20 minutes on a Peloton, but why? When I could lie down for 2 hours.
Yes. Well, let's
see what everybody's apartment.
That's something you have to look forward to. Is that when you have a small child, you get to nap all over again, and it's wonderful. You get like 3, possibly 4 solid years of napping. I was like forcing my son into naps way past the age that he was wanting to take them just because I needed them,
Amazing.
So you're still doing this show, right? You're still actively doing this show.
Yeah.
And I want to see you do a show in like 3 years about if it was worth it or not. 3 years later,
100.
Was it worth it?
That's already been on my mind, being like, now what? Like the next show is just going to be like, we did it. And what happens now? So for sure, that will be a thing. I'm already like talking, and another buddy already wants to do like a parenting podcast, and I'm like, man, the kid's not even out yet. Yeah. But I guess like I'll talk about the pregnant and then
get a jump on it.
But yeah, I think Yeah, especially because, like I said, I found a lot of pleasure in writing it like like talking about the one thing, and it was actually, it came easier because it just felt like listing the timeline of events and then just punching it up. It kind of felt like a cheat code almost to writing to comedy,
Yeah,
you
sure.
know, and then getting to tag it on stage, being like, hey, this is the idea, and then kind of when you put it up on its feet, seeing what else comes from it. So yeah, man. I keep writing those one-woman shows, never going to Scotland again.
There you go.
We'll make something of it. I'll make something of it. I'll have my own little anthology on YouTube somewhere, I'm sure.
As long as it's for real and you're not just saying words into a mirror, it's okay.
Yes, right.
So when your daughter officially comes, are you planning on
Yes,
taking some time
yes.
off? Are you
I'm assuming I'm gonna have to, right? Like I have no idea how I'm gonna feel when she's here. Like I don't know if I'm gonna be like, man, I want to just like nest for
Yeah.
months, or if I'm gonna be like, I need to get out of the house. Like I have no idea how I'm gonna feel. I know that other comics have like gone and done shows like a few weeks later. Like I don't know, because I already with comedy don't have that thing in me where I need to get on
Yeah.
stage. I love my time away from comedy. I love traveling. I love seeing Broadway shows. Like I love my nights that I'm not doing
Yeah.
comedy. So I'm never that person that feels like I have to get, if I haven't been on stage in 2 weeks, I'm not like, well, man, I got to get on stage. I feel crazy. I'm kind of like, that was nice. Like I loved the pandemic. I hated comedy pre-pandemic. I was like really not having fun with it. And then getting this like kind of break was really made me enjoy it again. To be like, oh, this was something in my life that I loved doing. And without it, like I got to take a step back and like look at it differently. But yeah, I have no idea. Because also like, I know that when the baby comes, there's going to be so many in-laws visiting. I don't know if I'm going to be like, I need to do a show just to get the fuck away from my mother. Like, who knows?
Right. Yeah.
Like when all the parents and everybody visits and it's like so overwhelming, if I'm going to be like, let me go hang out with I'm going to go get on a subway to go hang out with strangers for a second because you people are driving me crazy.
Yeah. Bring her along
So,
with
I
you.
don't
She
know.
might be one of those
I don't
green
know.
room babies. Just
I've
grow
been
up in the
told-
club scene.
It's so funny. Everybody's like, do not bring that baby here. And I'm like, okay, I'll wait till she's all there. Everyone's like, if I see that baby in this club, I'm going to fucking turn you in.
Yeah.
So we'll
But I'm
see.
glad that you just said what you just
We'll
did
see.
about not feeling like you have to do it all the time, because I am also kind of coming
Never.
to that where I almost wouldn't allow myself to feel that way for a long time, because I came up with this philosophy of like, if you care about comedy, you're doing it every night. You don't take days off. If you give a shit.
That's not even what comedy is anymore. It's internet
Exactly.
stuff.
Yeah.
It's
And
truly-
my whole philosophy now is the right approach to doing comedy is whatever makes you want to keep doing it.
yes, it's supposed to be fun.
Yeah. And if that means doing it every night, great. If that means taking a few nights off or a week off to travel and live your life and have some experiences so you have something to talk about besides just doing comedy every night, that's great. So I think that's already great that you have that mentality, because if you were one of these people that was like,
my outside of comedy.
yeah,
life.
if you were one of these people that like, I got to be on stage every night, you would probably become very resentful of this baby, Whereas it sounds like
No,
you're really going to embrace it.
Yeah, right. That's the plan. The plan now is to embrace it. The plan now is to embrace motherhood. But yeah, no, I love my outside life. Like I think if I wasn't a comic, I probably would be pretty basic. Like I probably would be like, just like I got my cinnamon broom from Trader Joe's. I don't think I've ever been happier. That's the smell of cinnamon in my home. I got some twinkle lights on a fig tree. Like things are happening. Like I love my stuff that has nothing to do with comedy. Like I love having dinner parties. I love going to dinner. Like I love doing things at night, which I didn't do for so long. When you're working at night, you kind of like lose these parts, and you still do. But like if something sounds interesting to me, if somebody invites me to somewhere and I have a spot, like I'll weigh it and be like, is it worth $50 or do I want to go do this other thing? And a lot of times I will be like, it's not worth it to me to go do 15 minutes of like I would rather spend time with these other people or do something.
Yeah.
Like I very much enjoy outside of comedy.
Yeah, that's great. I hope
Very
more people
much.
adopt that
Yeah.
philosophy. The one thing I hope is that
Yeah.
that you know how like when a kid is growing up, you know, like we do it in our door
Mhm.
jam, we measure his height every couple of months, mark it with a pencil.
Oh yeah.
I hope you use the wall with your smeared toenail polish to measure their height. Like this is where it all
We
started.
moved.
Oh, that was the old place? Ah,
That
fuck.
was the old place. Yeah.
You got to
now
go back there and demo that wall and bring it back to the new place.
I'll have to go back.
Well, you did it.
I did
I'm
it.
happy for you. Congrats.
We did it. Thank you very much. Yeah. No, I'm very excited. I can't wait. I've loved like my nephew and getting to just watch him. And I'm like, God, if I love my kid as much as I love my nephew,
Yeah.
we're gonna be okay. Because I love my nephew a lot. So I just hope
Yeah.
I love my kid as much.
I'd say there's a good chance.
I will. I think there's gonna be a pretty
So
good
let
chance.
people know where they can find you.
Yes, I am at KSpaceB on Instagram, CASEFACEB. And because I am in with the youth, I have a Snapchat show. Watch out. It is a true crime. It is called Lawless. Man, if you find my Snapchat show Lawless, let me know how it is. I don't know anything about Snapchat. So find it, send it to me. Find me there.
Man, you're already in official mom mode.
But yeah, but
I don't know
mainly-
how this works, so
I don't know how it works. Oh, I think I'm on TikTok too at KSpaceB. You know, it's everywhere because it has to be. But Instagram is
Yeah.
the one I know how to
Great.
use. So come over there.
and
Yeah, I know that really sounded very 40-year-old woman. Come over to Facebook, find me, help me.
well, yeah, we need to train these kids in the family biz and just have them be our social media managers so we can throw our fucking phones in the river and live our lives.
100%.
Well, thank you very
100%.
much for doing this. It was great catching up with you.
Thanks for having me, and good luck with your show. Let me know when you, if you ever like want to just chat about it, or if you're
Yeah.
putting it up on its feet. I'd love to
That'd
see
be
it.
awesome.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be
Yeah.
really fun to write about it and like do it.
Thank you.
It will. And also when you write about one thing, there's you have a little bit of breathing room where not everything has to be funny. You can story tell a little bit, which is a really nice
Totally.
break from being like,
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to it. And I appreciate these little pep talks too.
Oh yeah, man.
All right. We'll talk soon.
Bye, buddy.
All right, everybody. There you have it. Casey Balsham. Give her a follow on all the platforms at CaseFaceB, CaseFace, the letter B. And keep an eye out for her show, Inconceivable. I wish her all the best. I think she's going to be a great mom. And hey, better her than me. If I spent $90,000 on my son before he even entered the world, I would be a resentful bastard for the rest of his days. I would be shitting my pants and having him change my diaper as an able-bodied man, just out of spite. So, hey, hats off to Casey. She's a hell of a woman. She can make a hell of a mom, and really happy for her and her husband, by the way, Robbie Slowick, who's a fantastic comedian in his own right. Give him a follow while you're at it. Super funny guy. So I wish them all the best. I thank you guys for tuning in. Give me a follow if you're not already at Who Doug Smith. And thank you guys so much for your support. Really appreciate it. And I hope to see you next week. Thanks again for tuning in. Goodbye.